Hey everybody, welcome back. HSC Podcast 137. Got Big Buck Steve on the mic, got the Big Smooth, and of course, Fresh West is not here.
Yep. Missing in action.
It might be because, he didn't have good picks this week.
Well, I think,
We all
yeah.
picked the same. It was
Well,
pretty
no, you
close.
picked, yeah.
I think
We
I
all
mean I
lost
lost on Tampa Bay,
and then
uh
on the Chargers.
the Commanders and Chargers.
Yeah, and we all lost on the Chargers
Yeah.
because the actual Texans actually played like they're supposed to.
Yeah. I mean, so big thing this week we're gonna talk about we're going to NFL playoffs, obviously. And then we've been following the college football playoff to the championship game. So before we get into NFL, because that's obviously the big topic, but let's talk a little college football. Playoff is into the championship. And then I also want to talk a little bit of draft. I don't want to get too much into it because we'll talk a bunch about that later. But Notre Dame, Ohio State. What do you think?
Well, I just realized, and then people make comments about how stupid I am. But yeah, I was totally off this college football playoff completely. You were on, you had Notre Dame making it. Yeah. Um, it's
Can they
probably
beat Ohio State, though, is the question.
You want me to talk about that right now?
Yeah, like that's where we're at. We're
Okay, well then, yeah, I think Notre Dame's going to beat Ohio State.
oh, Notre Dame's gonna beat Ohio State?
Yeah.
Oh, that's a tough one. Okay, well, break it down for us. Like what's what does Notre Dame need to do in their game plan to beat Ohio State?
They need to be the bully. They need to be physical. They need to run the ball real well. They need to make um, Will Howard have turnovers. I don't like, Ohio State, Texas. It shouldn't have been. It should have been an easier win for Ohio State, but it was like, why is Will Howard throwing the ball so much? It's
Well,
like,
because
dude,
they had a huge game previously versus Oregon.
right.
Maybe there's a little bit of misconception about how good Will Howard is.
Yeah, it's like he's like, Ryan Day, you've got these bear claws, paws, right, of these running backs, and you don't know what to do with these paws. You got the
Right.
the animal in front of you, and you're like, you have these running backs, but you just don't know what to do with them.
You're
You're
like
just
a
tapping them
bear, man.
around.
You're like a big bear.
It's like, man, you got these two amazing running backs,
Right.
and they hardly get the ball at all.
So is that the downfall for Ohio State
I think
against
that's
Notre
what's going to be
Dame?
the downfall is they're going to think, because dude, I'm not going to lie, Ohio State's the more talented team
Yeah.
easily. I mean, it's
Well,
crazy.
I don't think it's a huge gap, but it's a gap.
Right. And I just think they're going to look at, and this happens all the time. We'll talk NFL, but last year the Ravens, right? Lamar Jackson, they only ran the ball 6 times. Why? Because he had Lamar Jackson, and he's an awesome player. So you're like, ooh, well, it's just, Ohio State has these awesome receivers. They're like, we got to use these guys. When to win the game against these teams in these playoffs, you got to have a good running game and a good defense.
Right. And Notre Dame's defense is no slouch.
Right.
So it's not like you're I think Notre Dame's defense comparatively as good as Texas. I mean, you could probably go coin flip between them. Better than Oregon's, 100%, right? So it's not like you're going against a defense that's not very good.
Right.
I agree in the fact that you can't rely on Will Howard. Like if you're gonna say Will Howard's gonna win you this game, yeah, I agree 100%. Uh Judkins and
Henderson.
Henderson, yeah, they have to have what combine 180, maybe 200. I think that's how they win this game. You know, Notre Dame's going to control the ball if they can. Not saying they can because Ohio State has more athletes. If you look at uh, Notre Dame's offense against Ohio State's defense, who has more athletes on that side of the ball? Ohio State, right?
Yeah.
So you got to do a lot of read option, and I hate to sound like a parrot, but Leonard has to run the ball for 50, 60, 70, 80 yards because you gotta make their linebackers key on him, right, and not just the running backs and keep them separated.
Well, I don't think I just think he needs to be a threat because that's what, against Penn State, he only had 35 yards rushing, but it was more of the threat of him. And that's the thing is that's what he's crazy is like if the Notre Dame gets it in like 3rd and 3, 3rd and 4, then it's over because Leonard could be like, oh, okay,
He's gonna get
nope,
that every time,
I'm just gonna run it.
right? Well, and that's what they have to do, right? They have to have a balance first and second down, make sure there are thirds or third and shorts. Obviously, you want to get first downs, but if you're going to be in third down, if they're in 3rd and 10, 3rd and 15, they're done. There's Notre Dame cannot convert third and long against Ohio State. So their game plan is simple, like short runs, don't take any sacks, move the ball as much as you can and convert third downs.
Play physical.
They do have a great offensive line. Not a good offensive line. So that helps them. Athletically, it's hard to match up with Ohio State.
Well, I know Penn State's skill positions are not Ohio State's,
No, but they have good
but
ones, real
but
good
it
ones.
is pretty amazing that Penn State had 0 receptions from wide receivers.
Right.
It's Notre Dame.
Well, their secondary is solid. I think they're the one of the highest scoring defenses in the NCAA, right? They're top five.
Yeah, I think so.
They get pressure. Their secondary, plays in their zones and works together really well. I don't know if they have an All American, but they have an All American secondary, even though there's not a single one, that guy that you would put up with like a Caleb Downs for Ohio State. But you would say, I don't know. I'd almost venture to say their secondary is as good as Ohio State's, top to bottom.
Yeah, I would.
Oh, man, and I've been pushing for Notre Dame since the beginning, but man, this is a big ask for them. Um, I'm still going to stick with Notre Dame because, once you start, you got to ride with them. Can't stop.
Yeah,
But
sadly,
it's
it's the kiss of death because I've been almost wrong the entire playoffs. But I'm taking Notre Dame also. And this is my favorite thing. And this is why, and I think we've talked about it, and people who listen to us will know we can't stand Ryan Day.
right.
And Lou Holtz has been barbing, getting after Ryan Day for years now about him not being tough. And so Lou Holtz put out here, this is awesome. If Notre Dame doesn't win, it's because we want to preserve Ryan Day's job.
Jeez.
I was originally going to be at the game in spirit, but now I'm going to drag my body along as well.
That's funny. Lou Holtz getting into
Lou,
it.
Lou Holtz is getting into it with Ryan Day. He's
Right.
88. See, and that's why it's like that's the mentality of the Notre Dame team. They're going to punch you in the mouth.
Right. If Freeman, so you mentioned Ryan Day, and so we got Freeman upcoming. Looks like what might be a star coach, Ryan Day, who always been a question mark, but he is now in that final game, which everybody has critiqued him for not winning a championship. So there's two things that happen, right? Either Ohio State wins or Notre Dame wins. If Notre Dame wins, how does that affect Freeman's stock?
Well, we talked about this off air. I mean, if he wins, I'm guaranteed he's getting a talk with the Chicago Bears if he wants it.
Uh, does that is that his next move though to the NFL?
You'd have to ask him. I have no idea what his mentality is of like,
Right.
has he
We're
talked
trying to
about,
like take him into
yeah,
us.
I don't
Like,
know.
what would
Like,
you do?
there's one thing to be like, okay, I'm going to resurrect Notre Dame.
Right.
Although I think, isn't he from Ohio State?
I don't know. I'll have to look
I'm
that
pretty
up.
sure Marcus Freeman played for Ohio State.
Right. Well, so also cash wise though, isn't it still good to for him? Like if you're a successful coach in Notre Dame, you're still making a lot of money, right?
Yeah. Yeah, he played for Ohio State. He was drafted in the NFL by the Chicago Bears.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, fifth round. I don't know if he really played for him, but he was drafted by him.
So is there enough money difference for him to move the NFL or just stay with Notre Dame, have successful seasons, and they pay pretty well, right? I mean, they're a church.
Yeah, let's see. His salary is 9 million a year.
Jeez. What? Right now?
Yeah.
Hasn't even done anything yet.
Yeah, well,
Wow.
and Ryan Days is 10.
So why go to the NFL?
What's funny is people have said you actually work less when you go to the NFL because you don't have to recruit all year
Right.
round.
You have more assistants. Yeah, your job purview changes, to the things you have to do.
Yeah, you're just coaching. You're not worrying
Right.
about player personnel and getting players in and
Right.
no money and
Better coach. I don't know the answer. I think I do, but Freeman or Day.
it's so hard to say, but like if and we give him I mean, besides in Michigan, he seems to win a lot. So Ryan Days seems to be a good coach. Marcus Freeman has done more with less, though. Because remember, Brian Kelly was like, I'm going to LSU to win a national championship. I can't do it at Notre Dame.
Right.
So just on purview of that, it's like how many other people could go to Ohio State and make it to a national championship?
You don't think you could coach Ohio State and go to national
No,
championship?
well, no, I wouldn't say that.
I mean,
I'd have a winning record though.
right, right. So it's you're pretty close.
I think this game comes down to this. Because what I've seen from the playoffs is Ohio State needs to come out strong early,
Right,
where Notre Dame is more of a adjustment team. Like the second half seems to always be Notre Dame's because they go in the halftime and they figure out adjustments to what they've been seeing, and they're better at adjusting to the game.
right.
So if Ohio State go gets their blitz go, I mean they blitz through and score a bunch early, then it's over. But if it's close, that's where Notre Dame has the advantage.
You think Freeman will make better adjustments than Day?
Yeah, I mean you saw it in the Penn State game.
Right.
If you watch the first half of the Penn State game, you're like Penn State's going to win this game.
Yeah, 100%.
And then it was like all of a sudden night and day in the second half.
Yeah, I mean, you got to look at Freeman in that sense and say, He's making good adjustments. Yeah, they haven't really faced that yet because they really kind of dominated most of their games.
Right.
They weren't the ones having to make the adjustments. The other teams were.
But when he against Michigan, he didn't make any the
Yeah.
adjustments and
Well, I mean, Chip Kelly's helped them a lot, in my opinion, from the offensive adjustments that they're making. If you look at each game, he hasn't come in with the same scheme in any of the games. And so he's literally changing their offensive scheme every game. And that's going to be hard for Notre Dame to deal with. My opinion is Freeman should take a page out of Kenny Dillinham's book, ASU coach, of maybe there's a time where you need to think about a fake punt, you know, a little bit of trickery into the offense. And if you do that in the first half, it opens it up a little bit more in the second half. But yeah, you can't go head to head. Like that's a tough one. You can't go head to head with Ohio State if you're Notre Dame. Player for player, you're going to lose.
right. Well, like think about it with like Michigan. What did Michigan do to beat Ohio State? They
Got to
made the
play
game
great
boring.
defense.
Yeah,
They
they made the
blitzed
game
a
boring.
lot.
Yeah.
I mean, did you see? I mean, Will Howard's not good under the blitz, and they were sending everybody. So maybe, and Freeman's not afraid to blitz. Like we've seen that for multiple games. The Georgia game, like I think he blitzed like what 60, 70% of the time.
Well, and I was what's, funny before the Penn State game, everyone was saying, well, Drew Aller said he was coming back, but he could probably be the third quarterback taken. And then ever after that game, they're like, nah, to go back.
No. Well, I'll tell you the worst take that I've ever heard on a podcast was Drew Aller, number one quarterback off the board. Not only that, right? So not only did they say Drew Aller would be the number one quarterback off the board if he went out, but they also compared him to Josh Allen. So tell me what you think about that take.
He needs more seasoning. We'll see. He was smart to go back. Plus, they got both running backs came back too. So we'll see how he fares this next year. Sometimes you just need an extra year to get
Yeah,
going. He looks like Josh Allen, but he doesn't play like Josh Allen.
right. Because he's big, he's strong, throws the ball real far. He does. He's fairly mobile.
For me, and we've, like in the history of our podcast, we've talked about, I've always been high on Cam Ward, even before he went to
Right.
Miami this year. So I don't think there's any way he's better than Cam Ward.
So this actually transitions to the second college football thing I want to talk about, which was draft. I don't want to get into it a ton because people know we'll get into draft multiple times up to the draft. But since transition to it, Cam Ward, top quarterback. Shadur Sanders is he number two?
Yeah.
Okay. So looking at the draft order, right? I'm bringing this up real quick.
They'll both be gone by at least the third pick, easily.
That's kind of my question.
Well, it's what the Titans, Browns, and Giants are the first three.
Titans, Browns, Giants, right?
Yeah. All three
So
need quarterbacks.
right. I have a somebody posted this mock draft where that's not the case, but let's break this down for a second. So yeah, Titans, Browns, Giants. Why would any of those teams not want quarterback?
I don't know why. I mean, the only thing I could see with the Titans is they're like, oh, but they're not. Their defense was pretty good. They just needed really a quarterback, right? Same with the Browns, same with the Giants. They all just like if you think about it, those three teams, the Raiders, all those teams, it's like what would have happened if they had a quarterback that was halfway decent?
Right.
Just look at the Commanders, right? Commanders or the Broncos. They got a quarterback, and all of a sudden they make the playoffs.
Yeah, change their seasons. So here I'm gonna use this mock draft, and so Tennessee they have Cam Ward at one.
Yeah.
Do you agree with that?
Yep.
So here's where it gets crazy. Browns, Abdul Carter, Penn State.
The only reason,
Giants, Travis Hunter. Patriots, Will Campbell, LSU offensive tackle.
yeah, I've seen this one because they got the Raiders taking Shador.
And then, yeah, Mason Graham, Michigan, and then Raiders for Shadur. Is that possible in any realm? So that's the problem that I see with this when I looked at this, and that's why I saved it. How could you possibly look at those first three teams and say, I don't need a quarterback?
I don't think he gets by the. The only reason Shador wouldn't go to the Browns is because Dion's like, nah, you guys are a horrible franchise. My son's not going there. But then he'll let him go to the Giants because it's a New York media.
Right.
So the both quarterbacks are going to be gone. And I mean, dude, I don't know how Joe Shane still has a job after you give Daniel Jones the huge contract. You let Saquon Barkley go and he goes to the Eagles.
Right.
You let Xavier McKinney go, he goes to the Packers. They both are like, well, there's so many good running backs, but Jacobs is a Pro Bowler. McKinney's like an all pro, right? You gave up, you can't draft guys and let them go if they're good and keep your job. I don't know how he kept his job.
It doesn't look good in New York, right? So I don't even know with the New York media, does Dion want Shadur going there?
I bet he does. I mean, no different than Eli going there, right?
Is that an Eli Manning situation?
Yeah, I think, I think it was one of the games. I think the bowl game, didn't Shador wear Giants cleats? Because they had the number one pick at the time. So I think they're open to the Giants.
So does that put Travis Hunter at six with the Raiders?
No, I think Hunter would go to the Patriots.
So you still think Abdul Carter though would go second, or would the Browns take Hunter?
They might take, the Browns might take Hunter.
Right.
Abdul Carter, though, I mean, he looked really good with one arm.
Yeah. And that's tough. You know, you bring in a nice rookie like Carter opposite Miles Garrett.
Well, that's where I'm at with like the Raiders. I wouldn't mind Graham or Carter or the McMillan.
McMillan, yeah, to
Or
Turo.
I saw one that they had him taking Genty. I was like, I don't that wouldn't matter. I mean, that's
Well,
fine.
this one has Genty going to the Bears, which that's I don't know.
That doesn't make as much sense because the
No,
Bears were like, you get Banks or you get Campbell.
if you can, I think both of them will be gone.
You do think so?
Yeah, I mean, unless somebody jumps for Genty and the Jets, like Panthers, Jets, they don't need him. Jags, they're fine. And then the other problem is the Giants and the Titans, and yeah, they do need running backs, but they need quarterback worse.
Right, but do you think that the tackles will be gone before the Bears pick?
Yeah, I think those are top five players. They
I
may
don't
not go top five, but I mean,
Because
this is a good example is Jets will take Banks and
Jets just took
Patriots
a
take Himple.
Jets took a tackle last year in the top 10.
Yeah, and that you get another one and you're good.
I think
What do the Jets need?
everything on offense. This one has them taking McMillan because Garrett Wilson wants out. Devontae Adams is aging, and
Right. And they're not getting a quarterback.
no. Well, I'm pretty sure. I
Well,
mean,
they can get Drew Aller.
next year because these Jets.
Oh, they can get Quinn Ewers. He just announced.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure the Jets would be. Oh, yeah, they drafted Fashanu last year.
Yeah. But he's a guard, right?
No, he's the left tackle.
I thought he was playing guard, but
No, because they got Elijah Vera Tucker and John Simpson at guard,
well, another good tackle. I mean, you're starting to solidify the line.
right? I don't know. I
But I mean,
mean,
either if it's available, the Bears have to take it. If it's Campbell or Banks, if they're
well
there,
then
you got to take
isn't
it.
the Oregon Duck guy they're talking Connor Lee might go as the top tackle now. So that's three tackles in the top 10.
Yeah, he's not that good.
Well, then I honestly though I don't think Campbell and Banks are as good as tackles have been in the past
Right,
either.
right, right. No,
I think
this is
this
not
year
as
it's more a
great, right?
necessity. I don't think we're going to look back at this as not being that great of a draft.
Well, yeah, I think you're right. I think it's more about necessity draft, right? Teams are going to take what they need, no matter who's available. Not a lot of big players, so. All right, well, enough college football. Let's get into the NFL. All right, so here we go. NFL playoffs. Week one wild card. Let's do a little quick recap. So the games we had different last week. I think you picked the Commanders.
Yeah, that
I
was the only
picked the
game we had
Bucks.
different.
Right.
Yeah.
And so Commanders won that game. We both picked the Chargers and they lost to the Texans. Otherwise, it was, pretty normal across the board. So look, thinking back about the games, the Chargers game was bad. That was a disappointing game to watch. Um, I did enjoy the Rams beating the Vikings, but other than that, they were all pretty like standard.
Well, the Commanders Bucks was a field goal at the end of the
Yeah,
game. But
that was a
hey,
little disappointing game too. Like a couple of the plays at the end of that game, especially by Baker Mayfield, almost kind of feels like a choke.
yeah,
They
yeah,
had the
when he's gonna fumble, instead throw it
right.
forward like that, and then you get an incomplete pass.
The fumble though, yeah, on the just a little wide receiver reverse. Snap was late, handoff was late, whatever it was. Receivers already passed him when he tried to hand the ball off, fumbled.
Just
That
make a
really
forward motion, and
that
it'll be a
killed them.
pass.
Yeah, the Stafford. So yeah, what you're talking about is the Stafford, Minnesota. He has two guys, his head's down, and he literally just flips it forward.
Do you see Belichick freaking out about that?
Yeah.
Because it's true. It's like it's total
Well, he was
BS.
on that Manning show with them. Yeah, and so he there's a lot of stuff,
Even the Mannings didn't defend it.
right. And so a lot of people out there talking about, how it almost sounds like Belichick's defending the it's rigged case.
Well, he was more saying that it's rigged against defenses.
Right.
And I get it with him. That was his bread and butter. Think about like the 80s and 90s Giants, right? With Lawrence Taylor and stuff and Monsters of the Midway. And then, that's early Patriots was about defense. That was like everyone now is like, oh, we all know it was Brady, not Belichick. No, it was both. Early it was Belichick, later it was Brady, right?
Well, that's a tough question. I actually think I'm not look, Brady has the most accolades, the most statistics, and you can't argue with him being the best of all time, but without that system, he's not the best of all time.
Right, but people will
But
say, well, he won a Super Bowl with the Bucks, though.
yeah, and the Bucks they were primed to win a Super Bowl. I think a lot of quarterbacks could have went in there and won that Super Bowl with the Bucks. I mean, I hate to say this, but you put Kirk Cousins in there, he probably would have won.
Mm, yeah, I don't think so.
I mean, it's true. You look at their defense top to bottom when, all those guys, Devin White, Jamal Dean, and uh, they're all playing the top of their game, Levante David, where Kansas City came in, oh, now we're playing Brady. They just don't look very confident.
Well, they had both offensive tackles out, so
Right.
that doesn't help. I don't want to make excuses for Mahomes, but that is one.
They weren't very confident in the game. They got pushed around because after that game, everybody's like, "Oh, Tampa's defense is the best." And
Right.
then years later, it didn't work out that way. But Kansas City really didn't do much at all.
Mm.
Right? They kind of dominated that. But we have a whole new Kansas City. So since we're talking playoffs, how do you feel right now, Kansas City? So we're in the quarterfinals. Kansas City against Houston, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
What do you think on that one?
Well, it's kind of boring to say, but I can't ever bet against the Chiefs because, like you just said about Mahomes and them about against Brady and having it, that seems to be like the thing, mojo of the Chiefs is, you have the Ravens with this great running attack last year, running the ball 6 times. They forgot how to play football when they played the Chiefs. The Bills, you got McDermott, who's a defensive-minded coach, and you give up two huge plays at the very end of a game for Buffalo, and Buffalo loses that game, right? It goes to overtime and loses. It's like they forget the only team that ever realizes how to play against the Chiefs in the playoffs are the Bengals. They're not in the playoffs. I don't know. We thought the Chargers would beat the Texans this year because the Texans have not looked good all year. Not up to what we thought they were going to be.
No, not at all.
So maybe 8.5 seems like a lot because this year's Chiefs team wins, but they don't like blowout teams. But I'm
Like
still
their
taking,
average win is like 5 or 6 points.
yeah, so I'm still taking the Chiefs to win an Arrowhead.
Right. Yeah, that's tough, right? Because they're at home, they're rested.
I mean, the only way the Texans can beat them, and this is something they could do, Joe Mixon has to have a huge game, and then the
Right.
defensive line of the Texans needs to get to Mahomes a lot.
Yeah, and I think they will. And I don't think this bye week did Kansas City any good. And I think you're good to bet on the Texans this week, especially if you're betting on the spread. Because even if they lose, it's going to be by a small amount.
If that happens, then I can enjoy the rest of the playoffs with no worries and everything will be great and rainbows. Because then I won't really care what happens in any other games.
Right. Look, Kansas City may win, but they're not covering. So put your money on Houston. I though money line right now, I'm going to take Houston. I'm going
Mhm.
to get great odds. And Kansas City has been sitting for a while. You sat your starters. You didn't play them week 17. You got a bye week. They haven't played for 3 weeks. There's always rust on the bottle, right? Houston, man, they just came off of what made them feel like they were a great team, and Justin Herbert and Will Disley helped in that by not catching passes, giving them interceptions, making them feel like their defense was good, and Will Anderson getting pressure. So I don't know if Kansas City's gonna be ready for that.
Well, it will be 23 degrees in Kansas City.
Yeah.
So
Obviously, CJ Stroud is going to be a big lever in the game, but it's really for me, it's how well the Texans defense plays.
yeah, but I think it will, if for the Texans to win, Stroud needs to make very little mistakes.
Right.
And that's where I'm scared is. I feel like he's going to do something stupid.
Yeah, I'm taking Houston money line and over. So you get points, you get 8.5 with them, but I think they're gonna win. I'm gonna take Houston.
Well, I hope you're right, but I've seen this movie way too many times and it always ends the same. So
Right. Yeah, that same Saturday, Commanders at the Lions. I just don't see anybody beating the Lions in the NFC, but the Commanders is the last team. They just don't match up well. Detroit definitely has more skill positions, and this is not where Jaden Daniels can, run for 50, 60 yards. He's going to run for 20 at most. So you have to find offense other places, and all they have is Terry McLaurin. And Detroit has too many weapons, so they cover at home at least at 9.5 points. I'm taking Detroit here by maybe 2 touchdowns.
I saw something out there, the meme out there that was this is going to be the closest we'll have to a real life Madden game because both Dan Quinn and Campbell go for it on fourths.
Right.
Yeah, I've got the Lions winning too. You don't really ever see rookie quarterbacks going too far in the playoffs, and there's a reason why. Knuckles is back, so Sonic and Knuckles are going. So with Montgomery and Gibbs, you got Brown, St. Brown and Williams. And Laporta. I just think the Lions have too much firepower.
So if Washington can win this game, like what do they need to do?
Goff has to play bad and have a lot of turnovers, and then um, the Lions' fourth down attempts fail, and the Commanders' fourth down attempts succeed.
So
And then Jaden
commanders need
Daniels
to
is going to
go
have to,
for it.
huh?
Commanders need to go for it on the fourth downs and succeed.
Yeah, and then Jaden Daniels has to play in an outstanding game.
Well, if you're Jaden Daniels, you're going to this game. How do you beat the Lions defense? Like, what does he need to focus on? Is it running the ball? Is it throwing
I would,
deep, throwing
I would
short?
say,
Like, what does he got to do?
well, I think what it's the corner depth is the Lions don't have much corner depth right now. Uh, I'm I don't know what's going on with what was his name? The guy that was with the Bucks. Carlton Davis, was it? Is that who they got?
Yeah, Carlton Davis.
If he's gonna play, I know that Robertson was their best DB um against I remember watching one against the Vikings. So let's see who we got going here.
Well, are
Um,
you thinking because this is means Washington needs to throw the ball, take advantage of the secondary?
yeah, well, it looks like so Terry and Arnold had a full practice, so he's probably going to play, but Rackstraw hasn't practiced all week. I think Davis is on IR.
Well, I don't know. I guess the tough part here for Washington is, do they have enough athletes to match up
Yeah,
in all
Davis is on
positions
IR.
against Detroit?
So what? You got, was it Zacharias, right?
Right.
Well, they got Brian Robinson, right?
I mean, Eckler had a pretty good game,
Yeah, we
had
got
a
Austin
couple real
Eckler,
big catches.
Robinson, and I don't know about receivers, but like Zacharias can get deep. Um, yeah, it is kind of the McLaurin show though. And so if they
Yeah,
can double him,
he's got to have a big game. I mean, ultimately, I don't think Washington will win it, but for those who are believers, I think it comes down to McLaurin, right? If he
well, I
doesn't
guess
have 100 yards, couple touchdowns, I don't think they win.
I mean they got Zach Ertz, they got Diami Brown was the one that had a big game. But yes, like known entities would be McLaurin.
Right. So I'd go with Detroit here. I'm riding them for the cover money line, whatever you need. At home, they're winning that game.
Yeah, I got Detroit too.
So Sunday, two new games. We got the Rams at Philadelphia. Before you give, your choice here, what do you think about Philadelphia right now? Are they thriving? Are they declining? What's happened with them in the last like 3 or 4 weeks?
I think they're starting to hit their stride now. Their defense is insane. It's Hertz doesn't have to Hertz just has to be a game manager now. He doesn't have to be like, he doesn't need to be like that fantasy football top pick he was a few years ago where he was running and he doesn't have to run anymore. He could give it to McBarkley. He has AJ Brown and Devontae Smith out there, so he doesn't have to worry too much. As long as Jalen Hurts doesn't turn the ball over, I think the Eagles will be fine.
So Eagles 6.5 at home. They cover that.
I think so. I mean, if you watch the Rams, Cooper Kupp has disappeared. He had one catch. So if you neutralize Nakua, you're pretty good against their pass. And I think the pass rush of the Eagles will get to Stafford.
What do you think about the Rams defense getting to Hurts?
They could, but that's why you got Saquon Barkley though.
Right.
You can just dump it off to him.
How much? What's the difference between Saquon Barkley and Kyron Williams?
I don't feel Kyron is as good a pass catcher as Wes would say. The best pass. He's no Dalvin Cook.
He's no Dalvin Cook. Is there a huge gap though? Like, how big is that gap? Obviously, Saquon's better. Like, nobody's gonna argue that. But what's the gap between those two?
I mean, we don't realize. I think the problem with Saquon was is his injury history. But the thing was with when he was healthy, he's the best running back in the NFL.
Right.
And right now he's healthy, so he's the best running back in the NFL. And that's been for like 5 years, right? It's like he just needs to be healthy, and then he's great.
Yeah. Is he 80% better than Kyron Williams? 100% better? Like, what's
I'm not gonna. I mean, Kyron Williams is a Pro Bowler. I'm not
right?
saying he's a scrub, but I'm taking Saquon Barkley 100% of the time
Right.
over him. I mean,
So the hard part I have is I think it's going to be a defensive game, right? Because when you look at the Rams offense, Stafford, Williams, Nakua, Cup, maybe Cup's not getting so much lately, but compare that to Hurts, Barkley, Brown, Devonta Smith, it's still pretty close to me. Like, yeah, you can argue one way or another, but it's not like you're on different planets, right?
right. And just the Eagles have a better offensive line too.
Right. But so really what I think it's going to be come down to which defense performs better. Who gets more sacks, more pressures, you know, turnovers obviously are a great thing, but Philadelphia's defense didn't look that great against the Packers.
Intercepted Jordan Love 3 times.
Well, Jordan Love's also not a very good quarterback.
I mean, I saw the opposite. It was their defense is the reason they won, and the offense was just kind of there.
Well, Bull, I don't think it was a horrible game. So that I mean, you can argue either side, but to be honest, like that was one of the worst games I saw all weekend. It was pretty painful to watch that game. You have to play better from your Philadelphia defense than you did against this coming Rams Matt Stafford offense. Because it's not Jordan Love anymore. I don't care if he's the $250 million man. He's not that good.
But I don't even think Stafford had that great a game against the Vikings defense that's just okay.
Yeah, Stafford's getting older, but he's still tested, right? He's been there a lot of times. So it's not like he's going to choke under pressure. And Philadelphia's defense may come out and play better. That's what it comes down to. Which defense is going to play better this week?
I mean, both quarterbacks have been to a Super Bowl, so it's not
Right,
like either one doesn't know how to the pressure of the playoffs.
right. And I think the offenses are very comparable. So really, it comes down to defense in this game.
Well, and the Eagles have the second best defense when it comes to points allowed and eighth when it and number one when it comes to yards allowed. So that's why I said the Eagles defense is going to win this game.
Well, let's see what the spread is here. Oh,
6.
yeah, 6.5. Uh, Money line, I'll go Philadelphia. Points, I'm going to take the Rams.
Yeah, me
This could
too.
be a real close game.
Yeah, it would probably be a real ugly game.
Yeah. That's what yeah. I mean, it's going to be like what, 1917 or something like that. They'll be talking about how it's the first time the score ever ended up like this.
Well, and if we're gonna get like the rigged thing, it's gonna be then the Rams win, so they can play
Right.
the Lions for the whole storyline again.
Well, Philadelphia, you won enough lately.
Yeah.
You're not Kansas City. So I think game of the week here, Sunday afternoon game, Baltimore Buffalo. What do you think about this game?
Well, it's what? The two teams that have been trying to dethrone the Chiefs for the last few years and have come up short every time, beating each other up to get another chance. So it's going to be a good game. And you got Lamar against Josh Allen because that's the big hot topic. Who's the MVP?
Yeah, it looks like a coin flip spread wise.
Yeah, well, I got the Ravens are favored on the road, so that's kind of interesting.
Yeah, by a point.
Yeah, but still, don't you give 3 points to the home team usually?
Right. Does that have anything to do with the way the Ravens, not because they beat the Steelers, because don't get me wrong, they should have beat the Steelers, but they look different than they have in previous playoffs, the way they ran the offense. And maybe it was because they ran, 10 times more read options and Lamar kept it so many times, rushed for, whatever, 80 yards. It looked different. It didn't look like typical Ravens playoff football.
Well, yeah, they ran the ball over 40, almost 50 times,
Right.
which they need to do. Huh, newsflash, they learned. You don't need Lamar Jackson throwing the ball 30, 40 times. You need to run 30 or 40 times.
Yeah, so I guess that's the question is, does Baltimore continue with that type of philosophy? Can you trust them to do that? How does that change between Pittsburgh and Buffalo?
Well, I think you kind of have to, and that's they're geared for the playoffs now because they're going into cold environments. It's going to be 16 degrees in Orchard Park. So you're going to have to pound the ball and run it.
And I feel like the Steelers defense for me is good, right? They didn't do a lot to stop that read option. And Henry had 60 yards, 70 yards.
Yeah, let's see.
And what was worse is that, at the
100,
beginning of the game,
186 yards.
yeah, even better. They didn't, they weren't taking away Lamar Jackson at the beginning of the game at all. They just let him in the first couple of drives, he ran the ball three, four, five, six times on third down, getting third downs. Is that a deficiency of the Steelers, or do the Ravens just have, a better way of doing things right now?
Well, we talked about this the very beginning of the season when Derrick Henry signed with the Ravens. This is why it was a perfect match. And that's what you were talking about. Who are you going to try and stop? You can't
Right.
stop them both. So in the first half, they're like, we're going to key on Derrick Henry. Lamar Jackson then keeps the ball a bunch of times. Second half, oh, we're going to key on Lamar now, and then Derrick Henry is going to run all over us. So it's you got to pick your poison. One of them's going to beat you. Who do you want to beat you?
Yeah, that's gonna be tough for the Bills because Steelers have a good defense and they really got exposed. All right, so Baltimore Buffalo, we're at Buffalo, pretty even odds. Those are our takes on it. What are you taking?
Is there any question who I'm taking, Steve? Come on,
I
man.
mean, I know I think you're taking Baltimore, obviously, but
Yeah. You got to take I'm taking the Ravens. Last year, if they would have freaking ran the ball more than 6 times, they're mistaken. Overcompensate for it. They went and got Derrick Henry. This is his time to shine. I got the Ravens winning here.
right. Well, hmm. I picked Buffalo here, so I'm gonna stick with it. I have questions about Baltimore's ability to stick to their game plan, especially when Buffalo, maybe gets ahead or, is a little more open, running a wider open offense. Does Baltimore fall into that back and forth game, which Buffalo wants? They want to score 20, 30 points each team, right? So my question is, can Baltimore stay away from that? Because if it comes down to that, Buffalo's better at that. If you're gonna have a shootout, you're gonna lose.
Right. Well, especially, I don't know if Zay Flowers is playing.
He might, he might play. Um, Regardless, it's about Baltimore being able to stick with their game plan. And so many times in the playoffs, they've not done that.
So the over under is 51 and a half. Why don't you want to go over on that?
I would go over just because I think Buffalo will probably score 30, 35. And if Baltimore is going to beat them, they got to score more than 30.
Right. Well, yeah, they are number two and number three in the league in points per game. At Buffalo is second at 30.9, and Baltimore's third at 30.5.
Right.
So,
So you got to take the over there.
but they both
Uh,
average only giving up about 21.
yeah, I don't trust Baltimore yet. So I'm gonna stick with Buffalo on this one.
And I'm going
So
to die on the Ravens Hill.
I mean,
It's got
I'm
to work
dying on the
one of
Notre
these
Dame hill
years.
too. So okay, so what do we got? We got two swings because I think Houston's gonna be Kansas City.
I hope, dude. I hope.
But you pick Kansas City, so it's still a swing. Detroit, Philly, and then Baltimore, Buffalo are different on. So in only 4 games, there's a lot of difference there. I guess that's what I like about the NFL playoffs, right? Doesn't matter if your team's not in. Like this is the most exciting part of the NFL season.
Just now it's about hating on teams. See, like you got two of your team, both the Vikings and the Packers lost. And then for me, the Chargers and the Broncos lost. So
Right.
we both had two of our division rivals lose. So that was fun.
Well, that's fine. I mean, we hope for that. And now you get to pick your quasi favorite, Obviously, you're on Baltimore. I'm going the Rams.
See, here's my if I'm talking like what I want. to see in a Super Bowl? I'd want to see Lions Bills.
Yeah. I think at this point, that's probably would be a really good Super Bowl.
And I want that just because neither has ever won a Super Bowl.
Yeah.
So that would be cool. Yeah.
Yeah. Minnesota already screwed that up.
Yeah. So yeah,
Yeah. I
nobody
wouldn't
wants
mind
us.
seeing Baltimore and Detroit either, just because that's the kind of game I want to watch. I don't want Kansas City there again because, I mean, if they three-peat, that's is a tough time for the NFL.
Yeah.
I mean, I have a hard time with Patrick Mahomes being the GOAT,
But can you really say that though? Because remember, we already talked about it earlier. Tom Brady beat him in a Super Bowl
right?
when he's old. Old Tom Brady beat prime Patrick Mahomes. So
I
there's
know,
no
dude.
there's no GOAT conversation when you lose to an older GOAT version.
But this dude, if he three-peats right now, and then he's got another what? He could play till he's 40, of course.
Yeah, I don't
Like
know.
you
I
never
just don't
know.
feel like you're going to get seven Super Bowls though.
Yeah, that's tough, dude. That's pretty amazing when you think about
Because, and who knows, maybe what, but it does Patrick, I mean, he still does crazy, amazing things. So I'm not going to get people like, oh, but he doesn't look as good as he used to.
it. Yeah.
He's not lighting the world on fire with stats, right? He makes plays when they need to be, which is good. But it's not like he's in the top five in passing yards or anything.
Yeah, but doesn't that also come down to like when you get better than everybody, you just get lackadaisical?
Yeah. Well,
I
yeah.
mean, think about
It's
it, dude. Like
dude,
this guy's just dominating.
last year is the prime example. They should not have won the Super Bowl last,
No, but he still did.
and they just still did. So now, well, this year they're like, oh, well, we don't have to really, and they're the number one team in the AFC, right?
Yeah, they're
Best
still
record.
15 and 2, dude.
Yeah.
And they don't even care.
Yeah. So that's that's what's just, and then what? They just got Hollywood Brown back, right?
Well, they're at peak performance as far as a team that they've been all year. Not just because of how they're playing, but because they're at a full roster.
Yeah.
And the fact that Pacheco went down actually, at the end of the day, kind of helped you because that gave you enough time for Cream to Hunt to come in and be efficient, effective, and now be a big 1-2 punch.
Well, they would never have signed Kareem Hunt
That's what
if
I'm
Pacheco
saying. It would
wasn't
never
there.
would have happened without that, right?
Yeah.
So it's actually like a, blessing in disguise,
Well, and then they wouldn't have traded for Hopkins if Hollywood Brown would have been healthy all
right?
year.
And now he comes back, and now you look pretty good with Worthy, Hopkins, and Brown.
Yeah.
And that one guy named Travis Kelsey,
Yeah. Who's all of a sudden going to show up and be like prime Travis Kelce
right,
again because it's the
killing it in the
playoff.
playoffs because he's like, "Hey guys, I'm back."
Hi, sweetie. Be up
Right, that's
there.
crazy though, right? Like your team's that good. Yeah, I just man. And then every game you watch them, they just do enough to win, and but then you're like, they're not that good, but they keep winning.
I know.
It's hard to bet against them. It's hard to bet
Mhm.
against them.
Tell you what, if the Chiefs make it to the Super Bowl again, I'm going to have a hard time. I'll have to have my wife come with me because I'm not going to be able to drive home because it's going to be lots of alcohol flowing because I won't be able to handle myself with the Chiefs in the Super Bowl again.
Chiefs win the Super Bowl. Yeah, shave your head.
No, no, it's all right. I'll let my naturally happen.
Well, so with that said, are the Chiefs' favorite right now? Who's favorite? Who you
Yeah.
guys' favorite?
I would not bet against the Chiefs at all.
No. So if
Oh,
you think so, you're Vegas, you're making odds. What's your Chiefs your favorite top?
yeah. I would say, yeah, Chiefs then Lions,
Right,
then Ravens, Bills. That would be your top four. And I think that, and then Eagles. That's your top five. Those are the only teams I could see even making it to the Super Bowl. One of those five
right.
teams.
Yeah, I mean, I try to think about it in a smaller scale. If I had to pick it right now, I'm taking Bills Lions. I mean, we got what, 8 teams left, right?
Yeah.
So at this point, I think if I had to choose, I'm going to choose Bills Lions.
Yeah, I'm looking up right now. They have the Lions as the favorite, and then the Chiefs, Eagles, Ravens, Bills. And then so the Bills are plus 550, and then it jumps to the Rams at plus 1600. So
Get on those Rams.
Texans
Yeah.
plus 4400.
I don't know if I'm not betting the Bills to win the Super Bowl, but what I'm saying is those are the two teams that I would take out of the conferences right now, if that was my choice.
And weirdly enough, this can't be all. Where is the Chiefs? Okay, yeah, Chiefs are plus. Yeah. So that has Super Bowl matchups. Ravens Lions plus 500, Ravens Eagles plus 7, Bills Lions plus 550. But yeah, Kansas City Detroit is plus 370.
Oh yeah, that's the favorite.
Yeah. With Kansas City and the Eagles at plus 500.
Is it make it harder for Buffalo and the Ravens to play here in the semifinal, right? And then you have to go beat Kansas City in a conference final when they didn't have as tough a game necessarily. We don't know how it's going to go, but they're playing the Texans. And then you just played the Bills or you played the Ravens, tough either way. And now you have to go to the conference championship game, play Kansas City.
Yeah. I don't know. It's funny as I was watching the Bad Boys documentary, and I know that's basketball, but it makes sense. And this is what the mentality back then was, because Detroit had to get through all these teams before they could win a championship. First, they had to get through Boston, and then all of a sudden, oh, Jordan Bulls. Then they had to get through the Lakers. It was like a step by step. And that's where I kind of feel like the teams like the Ravens and the Bills every year have been pushing step by step to
Right.
get over the hump. And then you have the Chiefs who are like the Lakers or the Celtics, right? And it's like that mentally you need to break through to beat because they have the
Well,
upper hand.
they already broke through, right?
Yeah, that
So they don't have the fire,
right.
but they're just really good. They've been there, which matters too, right?
Yeah.
Every time you go through these situations, it makes you a little bit better, which is how you win 7 Super Bowls as Tom Brady,
Yeah.
because you've been there before many times. And the Seahawks call a stupid pass play on the one that you don't do that if you've been there before.
Or you're the Falcons and you have Devontae Freeman and you don't use him at all in the
Right.
second half and you start throwing the ball up
Yeah.
21.
It was 28-3 at halftime.
Yeah. I would think you'd just start running the ball, and they didn't even do
Right.
that.
But
That's why I'll never, everyone loves Kyle Shanahan. I will never take him serious as a head coach
right.
because of stupid stuff like that.
Well, but isn't it, that's what I'm saying. Isn't that where that comes into like we've been here before, like we're poised, you're not. Like they're not making good decisions.
Well, and that's the thing. Mentally, the Ravens and the Bills have to overcome the, oh, here we are again.
Right.
They can't think like that. They got to be like, no, we're gonna do this. And that's what happened last year. Like the Ravens, it's like, dude, you ran the ball 6 times and you were a running team
I
and you
mean,
almost won.
you almost have to say that's a coaching problem.
Yeah.
Um, so because what do you think of Lamar Jackson? Like, do you take him as a gamer or you go based off his history?
I just think the problem with Lamar Jackson was before it was he had to play hero ball. And I don't need him playing hero ball now. He can make his plays, but you have Derrick Henry now.
Yeah.
See, Josh Allen, he he is the epitome of hero ball, right? He's going to take that and he's going to go. And I think it's because he has better accurate. It's weird to say, but he has better accuracy than Lamar Jackson and he can throw it farther. And I'm not saying Lamar can't win games. I just think he needs help to win the games against the Chiefs is what I'm trying to.
Well, yeah, and well, you need good receivers. You can't win games if guys aren't catching the ball. If your running back isn't pulling the linebackers off you on the read option, like you need all that.
Right. And I mean, it's not like it's the Bengals could beat the Chiefs because they had Burrow and Chase, right? I
T.
mean,
Higgins did a lot there too.
yes, exactly. You had those three options.
Right.
Lamar, Zay Flowers is good, but he's not anywhere near either Higgins or Chase.
Yeah, no, he's just a simple 1,100-yard receiver.
And it's the Ravens, it's Andrews and Likely and Henry, right? I mean,
Well, and that doesn't set you up well against the Chiefs because they have fast linebackers. Because the last thing you want when if you're tight and heavy is guys that can cover them.
right. But that's where I think also the read option comes in.
Right.
Because that's you the linebackers can't be aggressive on the tight ends if they have to worry about. That's why you have RPOs and stuff like that.
Is the Ravens a harder matchup for the Chiefs or the Bills?
I think the Bills, just because,
I mean, they beat them already, but
yeah. And if you think about it, dude, like the last time when the Bills went into Kansas City and almost won, and it was just because their defense was stupid at the end, right?
yeah.
I don't know. And that was a few years ago. So it's more like they've had more time to stew about it, where the Ravens was last year. But I don't know. I think I would be afraid of either team.
Well, unfortunately, one of them's going out.
Yeah,
That's what's unfortunate is because that would also be a very good conference championship would be Ravens Bills.
right.
But either way, most likely one of them is going to have to play Kansas City, unless, which I think is going to happen, that um, the Texans are going to play a great game.
Conspiracy theory here. The ref for the Chiefs Texans game has done 6 Chiefs games and they are 6-0 in those games.
Of course it is. Might be going 7-0, but um,
Dude, the NFL doesn't want the Texans to win. They want
no,
Chiefs against the Ravens or the
they
Bills.
do. I mean, you do, but at some time you have all these players, you have all this, but you get past your prime. The Texans had a great chance to be a really good team this year. I think they messed it up. They got into the playoffs, and this is where I think D'Amico Ryans showed how good of a coach he is because he said, "Hey, forget about the season. Season's over. Our new season is the playoffs." And they looked like a totally different team. If you, I don't know how many Texans games you watched, but in the last like 5, 6 games, they just looked awful.
Well, is it because Mixon wasn't healthy?
Well,
He's what
and
makes that offense
Stroud was
go.
missing throws, and but also their defense, they weren't putting pressure on. Will Anderson didn't get as much pressure he should have, and there was a lot of things when I looked at the Texans where that's why I picked the Chargers.
Yeah. Well, the
So I don't
Texans
know if
were
they have a
so
chance, but
inconsistent.
I think they do.
I hope, dude, but I'm not. I really don't think so. Yeah. We'll start the weekend off great if that happens, because that's the first game of the week,
It
right?
is first game. First game.
I feel like what will happen is it'll be a close game, and then some controversial thing will happen, and the Chiefs win.
Oh my gosh. Then you're just adding to the conspiracy
Oh,
and
I
the
know.
like the
It'll be
people
perfect.
that love to be out there and be like, this happened to the Chiefs, this happened to the Chiefs. It's a compelling argument. Like it's kind of like we didn't land on the moon, right? It's a compelling argument when you keep throwing facts at me. But ultimately the Chiefs are still gonna win and it's gonna wash it out.
Yeah. I just, as long, here's my thing, as long as the Chiefs just win and win and not the other team being stupid, I'll be okay. I don't need Kyle Shanahan not realizing what the overtime rules are. I don't need the Ravens, only running the ball 6 times.
Right.
I don't need the Bills giving up 60 yards in 2 plays in 18 seconds.
The contemplate the when they go through that contemplation and we show them all of them, it's pretty unbelievable. Of all the different times over the last like what 4 years or whatever, that calls have gone one way, or all the couple things you're talking about with interceptions or toes on the line, like all these things. It's pretty ridiculous.
The what was it? The field goal the Raiders had. Remember, it was holding on the defense
Right.
that hadn't been called in 5 years on any team. Yeah.
Well, the Raiders that Raiders Chiefs was one of the worst. But even like the blocked field goal,
Yeah.
how many times you block a field goal at the end of a game? What are the odds? It's pretty low.
Right. And it was a close, it wasn't a, I get on farther field goals, but it was a close field goal.
Right. Yeah. So they've gotten really lucky this year. I'm just not super impressed with them. If I'm going to take an upset this week, I'd go on the Texans. And if you lose all your money, it's not my fault. All right. So that's man, NFL playoffs is my favorite time of year. So we get to finish it up here. Super Bowl, same thing. I got Buffalo, Detroit. You're thinking what?
Chiefs, Detroit.
Chiefs, Detroit.
I mean, I need to see a team actually beat them and
Yeah,
not be stupid.
before you can. Well, I mean, Buffalo did beat them, but
Yeah, that was in the regular. Nothing counts in
right,
the season.
it's playoff time. Playoff time.
Weird stuff happens in Arrowhead in the playoffs.
He's like weird stuff. Yeah, I mean, there's nothing wrong with that, right? I just don't want to see a team three-peat, to be honest.
Yeah.
Because how many years has it been without that?
Has it ever? I don't think it's ever happened.
No, it's as I'm saying, it hasn't happened, and so we're at 70.
Yeah. We needed our Super Bowl historian on here, but he didn't show
Yeah,
up.
yeah, he gave us that number, but I mean, obviously, nobody's ever three-peated. A lot of teams went back to back. Steelers, they were back to back, like real close together. So there's a lot of dynasty happening there, but nobody's ever three-peated.
Right.
And I just don't want that to be Kansas City. I just don't.
Tell me about it. Yeah, that would be the worst.
Well, I mean, you've got Mahomes and you got Kelsey now, Taylor Swift. Like this, maybe that is just profitable for them, but man, it drives me crazy.
So here's the thing. It will be Chiefs, Eagles in the Super Bowl.
I don't want to see that again. Because we just saw that 2 years ago.
Yeah, the Eagles almost won.
Yeah, I know, which was even worse because they literally like stole it from
Yeah.
them. And now you watch the game, you just came out mad.
Yeah.
Look, if the Buffalo Bills play the Detroit Lions in the Super Bowl, I'm happy to watch it. If either of them wins, I'm happy to see it
I
wins. I
know.
just want to see a good game.
Yeah, for me, like I said, I wouldn't care who wins or who's in the Super Bowl as long as it's not the Chiefs. That's the only
Yeah.
team left that I'm like, I don't really want to watch the Chiefs. I'm sorry. I hate the
Or,
Chiefs.
or even kind of the Eagles for me, like fits pretty close to that.
Yeah, if I really would love the Lions to make the Super Bowl just because Dan Campbell's pretty awesome. And then for me, it would be either the Bills or the Ravens.
And either game, again, it's fun to watch, and that's what I want. The last thing I want to do is watch the Chiefs again.
Then it'll be like a super stressful game.
Right.
We'll be drinking and eating our feelings.
It's just not as interesting to me. And so I guess, obviously nothing you do about it as a league, but man, how do they go 15-2 after back to back? Is there ever a back to back Super Bowl winner that went 15-2?
I don't know. Um,
I don't think any other team has ever won back to back and then had that third season this good. Don't quote me on that, but my that would be my guess. And on top of that, I'm not a Kansas City fan, so I guess that helps a little bit.
yeah. So, I mean, technically, if we're just talking the Super Bowl era, there's no three-peats, but the Packers three-peated before the
Oh
Super
yeah, yeah, years and years ago, before the Super Bowl era. All right, well,
Bowl.
that's what we got this week. Man, I don't know about you, but I really enjoy this time of year, wrapping up college, but we watch NFL all year, so we can see how that finishes. And our teams aren't in it, but who cares?
Right. Our teams are never in it.
It's been a while, but it's still great to watch, and that's why we watch football here. That's why we make our picks. That's why we make our podcast for these last what 8 games. We got wait 2, 1, 3. So 3 games actually, right?
Yeah, after this week, only
Right.
3 games left.
So that's why we watch the NFL. Like this is why we're here all season for the playoffs.
Yeah. Stupid.
Well, any final thoughts on the college football championship NFL playoffs?
Nope, I'm just kidding. It's another week. You got Saturday, Sunday, Monday games. So
Well, it's nice to get the
wait.
Monday game for the college. It's
Yeah.
great.
And that one I'm the most interested in because I just want to see. It's like Ohio State's the Goliath here. Can Notre Dame beat Ohio State?
Are we doing a little Bible reference with a religious
Hey,
college playing? Is that what we're doing?
we got a Catholic college. We got, Notre Dame here. They're
Right.
going to pull up Bible verses.
We're really doing David and Goliath in the Notre Dame Catholic College.
Well, I mean, come on. A national championship game and an 8.5 point favorite. That
Yeah.
is seems like a David and Goliath situation.
Yeah.
You
Well,
got the
the eye test tells you that regardless, right?
It was the Super Nil team against, Notre Dame, who everyone didn't want in the playoffs because every time they've made the playoffs, they've sucked, right? In the
Right.
last so often. So this is their time. This is Notre Dame's time to show that they actually have the athletes that other schools have.
I
And
mean,
that's it.
they do have
What
some good
we
athletes, but not as good as Ohio State.
and here's the other thing. Look at the suit this taking out the super conferences here if you have an independent winning it all.
Oh man, it's gonna throw it. It's already there's enough evidence with all the bye teams losing. They're already gonna have problems.
Well, here's
But
one thing.
throwing a Notre Dame win, and now you're just throwing a monkey in the wrench.
And what's hilarious is I think it was each team that made it to the semifinals got 20 million for their conference. Notre Dame got 20 million for
Right?
themselves.
They're like, we'll just take it all. Like, thanks, guys. Yeah, it's gonna be a fun game to watch. So we're both riding Notre Dame.
You know,
So we're either gonna be really wrong or really right.
well, I've been wrong completely this whole playoff, but you've been right. So who knows what's going to happen now?
Well, now it's gotta be Notre Dame.
Yep, I've seen the light.
I felt it in my dream.
That's right.
All right, well, great stuff. Thanks for listening. Don't forget to subscribe and like. If any comments, we're putting out shorts too. So any shorts come out, don't forget to watch those, subscribe as well, and we'll see you next time.